A friend asked me the other day what it was like to have insomnia, and it made me pause for a moment. She genuinely cared. Would I answer her honestly? Tell her what thoughts obnoxiously parade through my mind in the stillest of hours? Would I tell her how unhappy I am at night? How the solitude tears my soul to pieces, leaving my heart achy and my muscles drained? How I feel so unclean as I lie there, feeling my bodily functions slowly work away, food being digested, muscles recalibrating, hair growing. When the insomnia hits hard, but the creativity spikes, and I wonder how I'm able to generate any work, but none that actually falls under any of my responsibilities. I pop melatonin like they're candy, and then roll under my sweat-drenched covers, feeling the pills working, but never letting me slide into that ever-elusive slumber. I understand more and more with each inconsistent night why sleep deprivation is such an effective method of torture. When I can't watch any more Netflix, so I turn to porn and have 5 orgasms, unable to exhaust myself enough to sleep, so I go for another. I wasn't even horny to begin with. I lay in my bed in a half-asleep daze, and I dream of a time in my life that I know will come, when I can sleep through the night without a worry in the world, and never again have to be confronted by what's inside of me once I've exhausted all of my distractions. All my muscles ache, and my bones creak from overuse despite low activity. I feel like that 8-year-old girl I once was with growing pains in my legs when they grew too fast. When I was a child, my parents took me on vacation to Greece, and outside of our hotel building there was this little hill with purple flowers that would collapse in on themselves every night, but in the morning when the sun came up, every single flower would bloom as if for the first time and face the sun. At 11:42 p.m., I'm staring at my ceiling, thinking about how deep their sleep must have been, because they sure looked rested in the new day. Do I tell her when I sit in a meeting and I notice my hands shaking, I have to ask myself when the last time I ate was? I cross my legs and force my fingers in between my thighs and paste that smile on my face so that no one notices. I dream of a day when I can rely on my memory and not feel a maintained state of stress that I'm forgetting something. Like the 2 days I ignored calls from my mother because I didn't want to tell her that my bike got stolen, only to remember that I locked it somewhere else. Or the time I went to ask for an extension for a paper that I'd already handed in but had no recollection of writing. I stared down at this mediocre essay with my name on it, wondering how could a piece of work that I must have spent at least a few hours on just completely leave my mind? What time of day did I write it? Was I anxious when I did? How many other moments are there in my life that I've lost forever now? Maybe good moments. I think about the jarring emotional contrast that I go through every fucking day when I'm aching in my mind from a sadness I don't understand, to the moment that I run into a familiar face on my way to school, and my eyes light up and my enthusiasm bursts out. Still, I can't help but feel disingenuous. I think about the times during the day when I sit in class being interested in the topic that the professor was discussing but never quite being able to absorb any real content. How blurry and unfocused my mind feels, and the agony that comes from knowing that I'm capable of a much higher performance. Do I tell her this is what's happening to me? I don't want to crush her image of me. I don't want her to bear witness to the pain that I experience when I know that my expression of joy makes her so happy. Why would I take that away from her? How would it sound to hear that I've had 2 anxiety attacks cripple me in the last 3 days when I've spent the last half hour with her beaming with curiosity and confidence? I could talk about that rush of energy I get from the cigarette I smoke while sitting naked in my room playing air guitar to a pop song at 5:26 in the morning. I talk to strangers on the internet that are in a different time zone, desperate for human contact in those lonely hours, but that craving is gone the moment the sun comes up. Makes me feel like I'm connected to a place where everyone is awake, so there's no way I could be unhappy. I think about every single person I've ever made eye contact with, what the dynamic of that instant was, whether I felt dominated or superior, mocked or understood. I think of every gaze that has ever recognized something in me, and with this thought I completely succumb to every person who's ever had the opportunity to grasp my vulnerability but never quite take it. I think about the people that every once in a while notice me rubbing my brow in a futile attempt to rid my head of this painful throbbing. So I try to remember my first sleepless night. How unaware I must have been that I had made a new friend that would stay loyal by my side for many months to come. I think about that night I spent sitting on my couch for hours, actionless. I changed my position, I laid my head on a pillow and gazed blankly with a rage of envy knowing that my roommate was a wall away sleeping like a baby. Perhaps if I moved to the ocean I could let the crashing waves drag me into the slumber that invades me in the city. So, do I tell her how I'm 2 different people stuck inside the sleep-deprived body of one? My daytime self and my nighttime self? It's as if these 2 women have never met. One, the optimist, the forgiver, the action taker, and the friend. The other, the cynic, the aggressor, the villain, and the maid. I just don't want to hurt her like that. It would almost seem improper to talk about my state at night in the daytime, plain rude and distasteful. That kind of atmosphere has no place here. But I'll never tell her any of that, because the only friend I could ever be that honest with is Insomnia herself.